Yeah.
How have you seen like exercising, eating right, like feeding your mind? How have you seen that play a big role in like maintaining performance? Because that's
Mm,
all I'm about. So
yeah.
I'd love to go
Yeah.
dive into that, man.
100%. I mean, I think that that's the thing that the gym instills in a lot of young men is to learn that, when you get into the gym in the early days, you jump on the bench press and you throw a bit of weight on the bar and, it doesn't move easy. You're like, oh, this is difficult. But you slowly learn that if you keep rocking up day in, day out, working on your strength, eventually that weight that felt really heavy becomes quite easy.
Yeah.
It's the same thing in business, keep showing up, keep learning. And at some point, things that were really difficult and stressful become like really easy. And that's that journey. Particularly in business, it's quite high performance, it's quite stressful, but
Yeah.
you just keep rocking up, you keep working on that mental toughness, and you strengthen your mind. And it's no different to the gym where you're strengthening your muscles, you strengthen your mind. So
Hello, everyone. This is Corey Davies with episode 10, High Performance Management Podcast. Today I'm joined with Sean Meyer, owner of Leelo Active. Been running for how many years now?
just over 3 years. So we
That's
launched in July 2019.
amazing, man. And gone through COVID, no dramas. So we're going to be talking about his journey today, how he's maintained it, how he's growing, what the future of it looks like, all his obstacles he's gone through, and we'll start there. So July 2019, and
Yep.
what was the inception idea? How long were you thinking about it before you went to launch?
Probably 6 months of planning went into it. So I was a little bit in a crossroads in my life. I just got back from living in London in 2018, which the dream was to kind of be like a full-time model over there. Didn't really go to plan. So came back to Perth and kind of reevaluated what I wanted to do. And yeah, the activewear kind of thing made the most sense to me. So got into that, and yeah, that's how
Yeah.
it all started. So pretty much start of 2019, I reckon we started planning, and then really started putting things into motion maybe around March. So it was probably a 3-month process from actually coming up with a business name to sampling to then launching the business in July
Yeah.
2019. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that about you. Even today, this was very short notice. That's a lot of fast action taking. That's I think I know anyway. The guys I work with, action is a pretty hard thing to get the habit of. How did
Mm.
you cultivate that habit of taking action?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I think about all the time. And for most people in life, they look at like paying for things with just money. The way I see it is you pay for things with money, time, and opportunity. So I think it's really important to know the power of saying yes, but also the power of knowing when to say no. But for me, particularly, like I learned that in 2018 to just really start to go with the flow and say yes to as many opportunities as possible. And yeah, that's kind of where a lot of things kind of started to happen for me in life, which was really cool.
Yeah, no, that's such a good mindset. I actually love that. Hey, was it money, time, and
An
opportunity?
opportunity, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Hey,
Mm.
and what you got that over, the times trying different things. Like, have you tried a few other things before Leelo? Like you
Yeah,
said,
so
modeling, but
yeah,
is there
before
other things?
Leelo, I actually worked full time for 4 years. So I went to uni for two and a
Yeah,
half years and I ended up dropping out. So I was studying construction management and economics.
yeah,
And I ended up dropping out to get a internship at a shipping agency to become an operations manager,
yeah,
and slowly worked my way up in that role. And then I was doing that for 4 years. And then, yeah, started 2018. I ended up resigning from that job to really like explore new
mm,
things, and yeah, went into the modeling stuff from there.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so going into modeling from shipping
Mm.
operations, that's a bit of a jump. So like, what was that about? Were you like, I can see you're pretty jacked. So like you're working out already? Like you've been working out for a long time? Like, is that
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
what
Already
the,
been in the gym since I was like 15. So I was
yeah,
always passionate about like health and fitness. The modeling stuff kind of happened on the side whilst I was working that full-time job. So I ended up signing with an agency called Vivian's in Perth.
yeah,
It's doing it as like a little bit of a side project,
yeah,
but started to kind of become more and more interested in it over time, and thought that whilst I'm young, I may as well like explore my options in that. And I kind of dived into the deep end. Most models will kind of jump from Perth and go to the East Coast, say Sydney or Melbourne, and then they'll work their way out from there. Whereas I kind of went from Perth and then jumped straight to London, which is quite a big city for fashion. So
Yeah.
yeah, but a massive, massive lifestyle change from like working a 9 to 5 in a shipping kind of company to then living the life of a model out in London. It's like
Yeah,
very,
bro.
very
That's like completely polar opposites, hey.
different.
And again, you got that same you got that mindset again, like just taking massive action. Like what made you think London? Like how were you feeling in that moment? Because number one, leaving a full-time job that's safe, and you've done it for 4 years, you've got friends, and taking the courage to like leap from that into what modeling, which it's kind of not a clear-cut path. Like, what was that journey? And like, how did you have like some mentors, or were you
Yeah.
reading something at the time? Like, what was that about?
To be fair, it was always on my mind, and it wasn't something that happened straight away. I think the thing that really pushed me towards that was a trip in 2017 where I went to LA, and I kind of just started to network with a few models out in like Hollywood and saw how they were living, and that kind of inspired that idea.
Yeah.
But then it took like a whole nother year from, well, not maybe like 9 to 10 months from that trip to actually go, hey, I'm going to resign from this full-time job, step away from that comfort zone. It was a really safe, comfortable job, and I was making quite good money. So it was hard to step away, especially at the age of 23, where you're starting to look at, do I maybe look at buying a house?
Yeah, man.
But yeah, for me, I was like, it's now or never if I'm going to make the leap. So that's kind of where that all came from.
Yeah. I actually think that's a massive point I want to touch on, because like I know like I've kind of come out the other end of that as well now, where you go through those early 20s and you've got people going to uni, finishing uni, then going to full-time career mode. You've got others who've just kind of worked up the corporate ladder in some place, and it's like, yeah, you do get to that age like 23 where it's like, do I save for a house? So I go down that path. Like, it's fucking scary to go, hey, now I'm gonna go down my own thing. And yeah, so you went into modeling, and with the modeling, like, what was that in terms of like, how did you make money? You're in London. Was it like a slow like dredge to the top, or was it kind of you got lucky and you had the right people, the right network, and right
Yeah.
timing?
It happened pretty quickly, to be fair. So I got signed with an agency called Nevs over there, which is quite a big reputable agency that has some strong connections with big brands. So from the get-go, they were kind of sending me out to castings with big brands like ASOS, Nike, Puma, and all the rest. And I remember the first job I landed, which was probably like 2 to 3 weeks into arriving there, was with Puma. So I got flown out to Nuremberg to the headquarters, and did like a runway there where like Selena Gomez was at the show. And it was just, that was kind of the moment where I was like, wow, this is what it's all about. So yeah, it all happened pretty quickly, and I kind of did get thrown in the deep end, and then started to work, got a few like decent jobs, and started networking, and it was really good.
And so you kind of come up to that that hero's journey cycle again, because you've gone through, you felt that like pain and of making a decision. You make the decision, you're in this whole new place, you don't know what you're doing, you start getting better again, and then you decide to leave again and do Leelo.
Yeah.
And so what was the thought process behind that? You just got to what? How long were you doing the modeling before you switched?
Yeah, it would have been at least like, it was close to a full year, like pretty much the
Yeah,
whole of 2018. I was going pretty hard and trying to make it to the top pretty quickly, which was pretty stressful, particularly I think a mental battle, because as a model, you go into all these castings and you're trying to like paint this picture perfect person in front of like casting directors, running around London, different castings, not knowing whether you're going to get the job. And for me, I was like networking hard. I was trying to like meet with creative directors of brands and just finding myself in all these different places. And by the end of the year, I was kind of a little bit worn down.
yeah,
It was a great experience. I met so many amazing people. I kind of started to see a different perspective on the whole modeling career. There's obviously a lot of glitz and glam, but then there's also the side where it's a bit of a mental battle. And for me, I was like, do I want to continue to pursue this?
yeah,
I love the networking side of it, being in the fashion industry, meeting really cool people. But the actual hustle of going to castings, trying to get jobs, and then making it something that's actually going to, I guess, make you money. It's going to put a roof above your head and food on the table. I
Yeah,
think that was the other side that was a little bit stressful. So I started to really reevaluate that at the end of the year.
Yeah. And you wouldn't have even come to that if you didn't try it. Hey, and that's what most people, they get stuck with. They think about it, and then it's like they make up all these scenarios about what could happen. And then the best way to learn is just do it, right? Like you literally fucking flew across the country to
100%.
another place.
Yeah, I mean, there's the other side to it, and now I kind of, as I've matured a little bit and started to see results in other sides of my life, I kind of see that, maybe if I had stuck at the modeling stuff for a bit longer and just kept chipping away and had a little bit more patience, then maybe it would have all worked out in a different way. I start to see things where it's a bit of a pattern where you need to at least like focus on something for about 3 to 4 years until you really start to see some good results. Some people get lucky and they hit like the top really fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a patience thing for me. I felt like, particularly in the modeling thing, that I had this like ticking time bomb where I was 23 going on to 24, and a lot of models start when they're like 16 or 17. So in my head, I was like, I've got to do this really quickly. I've got to get to the top really fast. And it probably wasn't the best mindset to have. And that's what probably led to me burning out a little bit. But again,
because you had like the expectation that you were going to be somewhere, but in reality, it wasn't happening. Hey,
that's it. So I mean, but again, I think modeling's different, where it's not the standard career, because you can look at, I guess, what I achieved in 2018. I modelled for Nike, for Puma, for ASOS, for a lot of great brands. So as a model, that's kind of quite a successful journey. But in my head, it's like, I think that I was also tied down to that monetary value of the career as well, where I was like, I want to be making like hundreds of thousands of dollars. But the reality is, when you're living in an expensive city like London, it's pretty difficult.
What was that like? Like, what was it? Did it end up being like a normal paying job at that point, even though you're getting some big gigs, just because of the cost of living? And you're kind of, it's subjective, isn't it? It's like when I competed in bodybuilding, you could bust your fucking ass for 40 weeks, be in the best condition ever, like paper cut and you bleed out, and you get on stage. It's up to the judges at the end of the day. Same thing with you. Hey, how was that?
I mean, I made a bit of money. Luckily, I went over there with savings because I had worked for 4 years full time before that. So there wasn't too much pressure to make a ton of money. So I did land like those bigger jobs, and there was pretty decent paychecks. And you also have the other side of modeling where it's like e-commerce shoots. That's almost your like bread and butter, where you can do that 3 to 4 times a week and make really good money. The other side to it is you really need to be like in one place, so set down in London and be available to go to all of these castings. Whereas for me, because it was the first year that I'd left that full-time job, I really wanted to travel as well. So I was kind of bouncing between London. I was going to LA, Vegas, and constantly moving around. So it got to the point where like my modeling agency got a little bit frustrated at me as well. And they were like sending me emails being like, look, you need to try and like settle down a little bit and be in one location so that you can go to these castings, because at the end of the day, it's business for them as well. They're trying to make money. So it's not the best thing for them to have models that are kind of traveling too much and not focusing on it.
What would you say? Like, it sounds like you went through like a lot of lessons as well in that. Like the key thing you said was, because of this, patience was the number one thing, and like it was that whole time factor again. Like, what are your like biggest lessons from that you've taken into Leelo, that you think if you didn't do it, you probably wouldn't have achieved certain results?
Yeah, I definitely think it is going back to that, just being patient and understanding that you're not going to see results straight away, and it is a slow grind. It's that classic quote where you say it's a marathon, not a sprint. I think that really ties in pretty well, and I've really learned to, I think with COVID as well, that really forced people into, just slowing down a little bit and staying focused on one thing. I think if we didn't have all those lockdowns, maybe I would have kept bouncing around and traveling. I'm a pretty unfocused person naturally, so I'm always on the go and wanting to be doing new exciting things. So when we were locked down, it was kind of like, all right, you've only got one option here, and that's to focus on the business. So
Yeah.
it's kind of a blessing in disguise.
How do you manage that then? If you are, because I'm the same. I think most like entrepreneurs, people that are like variety and trying different things, that it's like not an unfocused thing, but too much focus on lots of things, right? How do you manage that? And like, has that impacted some of the results you've had with Leelo as well? Like, what is it you do to maintain your focus? Mentors, journaling, like anything like that?
Yeah, I think I listen to a ton of podcasts now. So like guys like Alex Hormozy.
Yeah, what a legend. Shout out to
Yeah,
Alex.
yeah, great. So I've been just had him on nonstop in the background, just listening to his stuff, and then even following along some of the, like these fitness influencers that I've been following probably from like 2015, like Max Tuning,
Yeah.
Christian
Please don't be
Guzman.
sour, hey.
Yeah, like they've all killed it in their businesses. So it's just like watching their journey and kind of just trying to do what they've done, but on a smaller scale, and just yeah, taking little bits from each of them and just
Yeah.
implementing it into what I'm doing. So yeah, I've been very self-taught though. It's a lot of like watching YouTube videos, learning about digital marketing,
Yeah.
sourcing products, working with manufacturers, and then I've even taken, the skill set from working in operations management from that shipping agency and implemented that into the business. So, learning how to manage time, cost, and quality. I think that they're the three variables that are really important in business. And I think that that's kind of helped in the success of Leelo too.
Yeah, that's great. And so that's good. I want to get more into the business stuff then. So you started 2019, right?
Yeah.
July. What was like that first launch? How did that go about? And what was the planning process? How did you know what to make or what to buy or, everything like that?
Yeah, so I'm partnered up with my girlfriend Beth. So she's kind of the master behind all the designs. So she had a pretty good idea of the products that she wanted to develop, and we started with just looking at what the top brands were doing and what the top selling like products were, and then going from there and redesigning them in our own unique way. So we launched with quite a simple range of products. We just had 3 different leggings in 3 different colors and then matching sports bras. So it was like 6 styles in total. We did make a pretty big investment from the get-go. So I put about $26,000 into the stock. Didn't have much money left over from there. So it was kind of like my back was against the wall. And it's like, all right, I've now got to sell, I think it was about 2,000 units. Just got to sell these 2,000 units, take the profits, flip, and then go again, buy some more product and just keep going. So that was kind of the mindset there. But yeah, with the launch, we actually ended up hiring like a penthouse apartment in the city, and we invited a bunch of different girls from around Perth to come. And yeah, we're really thankful for the amount of support that we got from that initial launch.
Yeah, it's from like when I work with people, I make sure we get a clear vision and get your values aligned. And like you can just hear in your language that like even you've got like your top values of like business growth, like learning, like fashion, lifestyle, and I can see how it's gone through. It's actually really cool. So like you've obviously leveraged your network that you made through the time modeling, and it's almost like a clear path looking backwards, hey. But yeah, so going forward then, like you've done that launch, what was like the next after that? So like that, obviously I assume it's sold out, otherwise we wouldn't be here having the conversation.
I mean, to be fair, the launch was actually like pretty slow. So it's not one of those overnight success stories where you launch the product and then all of a sudden it goes gangbusters. Like it was actually pretty slow grind. So because we put pretty much all of our money into product, we didn't have that much of a marketing budget. So we really had to take that bootstrapping approach to our marketing. So we did things like we printed out 2,000 flyers with 20% off discount codes, and I'd walk around different suburbs. So either a suburb where I believed that the demographic was really relatable to our audience, or also just a wealthier suburb, and we just letterbox drop. So just like real old school marketing techniques that don't take a big budget. We started with that. And then we also went and did like pop-ups around Perth as well. So we'd inbox like different F45 studios and private studios and go down there on a Saturday morning and kind of do these little pop-ups just to spread word of mouth.
Yeah.
Mm.
And so I like the old school stuff because I used to work at a gym, and it
Yeah.
was just before it got into online lead generation. So we
Mhm.
still were standing in shops and walking, doing that same thing. I'm curious. I feel like it would almost be the opposite now, where because before I don't think that stuff worked as well because we're
Yeah.
going to that new age. But like, did you find that kind of worked? Because it's like, oh shit, it's like this old technology. You come across it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
how did
I
that
think
work? Was that all right?
Yeah, it actually worked, I think. I mean, it's definitely an old school approach, and it's not like online where you can really measure the data and you see what the click-through
Yeah,
rates are and what your conversion rates are. You don't know when you're doing letterbox drops.
yeah,
And it's not even like lead gen for a gym, like you really don't know. But we
yeah,
did, we started to see those sales roll in, and we had that unique discount code on the fly. So you could track it from that as well.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, I think that it was a very different approach to what most online businesses were doing because you
yeah,
did have digital marketing. We just didn't really have the budget to go into that at that time. So I wanted to start with the old school marketing, do what other brands weren't doing. Because I think for most homeowners, it's a bit of a surprise to see a small business, especially an activewear label, drop a flyer in your letterbox. How
yeah.
often do you see that?
No,
So
it's not.
it was kind
Yeah,
of that surprise factor where they're like, oh, this is different. So
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
That's cool. I like it. You definitely, yeah, you're pushing the box a lot. Is that
Mm.
stuff you continue to do now?
No, not so much. I mean, we do combine the two a little bit, but now we are heavily into that digital marketing side of
Yeah,
things. Now that we have the budget and the scalable business, it's
yeah,
very much a numbers game for us now, where we're continuously scaling up that ad spend and just the business continues to grow, which is really cool.
yeah. And so 2019, 2020 was the start of COVID. What
Mhm.
was that like? Like emotionally, because you've just started this
Mhm.
thing. You're
Yeah,
seeing the world is fucking ending, zombies, apocalypse, whatever.
yeah.
How did you deal with that? And like, what was the steps that you had to take to ensure that you stayed focused
Yeah.
and kept growing? Because I know a lot of people struggled then.
Yeah, for sure. There was a lot of uncertainty, that's for sure. It probably meant that we took a bit of a safer approach and we kind of just took things really, day by day, week by week, which I think is a good way to do it anyway. I think that you just got to keep going step by step. We didn't let it stress us out too much. We were kind of like, the show has to go on, and
Mm.
we'll work out what we can do from here. And you obviously have to research what people are doing, what's COVID going to cause people, how are they going to change their lifestyles. And you saw a lot of people just staying at home, lounging around. So activewear, made a lot of sense. People started to wear activewear as loungewear, and we started to really invest into that and have our marketing techniques kind of invest into that too.
Yeah, can you touch on that's actually really interesting because I agree. It's like it's now not just active wear. It's
Mhm.
people are having it. I saw someone wear it out once actually. That was a
Mhm.
bit weird, but
Yeah.
I feel like it's definitely you see it around the shops. Like people just pop it on, and go food shopping. Like what? How
Mhm.
did you like get into? How did you do that?
Yeah, so I guess there's a category that they call athleisure. So can be worn inside and outside of the gym. So it's kind of with our designs, we try and make them a little bit more fashion forward, a bit more tasteful. So not big, heavy logos. So it's easy to wear whether you're going down to the coffee shop or for a run down to the shops or doing a workout. You can kind of cross it over. So yeah, that's been our approach, and we've continued to like invest heavily into that with our designs. So making sure that
Yeah,
yeah, they're not the typical like performancey gym wear. It's like it's really tasteful and
yeah,
it
not
is a
like
bit
multicolored neon and
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
No, that's sick. And so through 2020, going into 2021, I know we were talking a little bit before, you didn't really suffer too much because you were doing air shipping and your
Mhm.
manufacturer was fine. What
Yeah.
what is kind of, the next steps for growing for you? Like what you obviously would have made some sales, and did you
Mhm.
ever plateau, and like how did you get out of that plateau?
Yeah, there's definitely been a few months where we have hit little plateaus, particularly because of inventory management. I think that that's a massive skill set that you need to have when doing a product-based business is, you're not going to hit the numbers you want to hit unless you've got the stock to sell. So it's like trying to replenish your stock in the right time. And I've never been perfect at that because the business has grown so quickly. Like year on year, we've done like 3x to 4x growth every year. So it's trying to like forecast that growth and balance out the inventory too. So that's kind of the tricky part to it all. So, but again, for us, we're bootstrapping. So whenever I'm ordering stock, we're looking at our bank account, seeing how much money we have, and then just basically going as aggressively as we can. So,
Yeah.
and we have a lot of confidence in our product now, to the point where like we know that most things are going to sell out. So there's no real risk factor as such.
Yeah. Wow, what a good place to be in. Far out. Did you ever think you'd be in this position when you first decided to leave modeling and go here?
Nah, not at all. I mean, in a way, like I've always had my sights set on being like this 7-figure business, and like I've always been pretty money driven, as shallow as it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's never promised, and it's been a real hard grind to get to where we are. But again, it does become a numbers game at a certain point, and then you start to see that, okay, this is how it goes. And then you start to get that sense of confidence when you're scaling up the business. But in the early days, it's constantly questioning whether this is going to work. There's a lot of competition. There's a lot of other amazing brands out there. And it's like, you always ask yourself, you're like, what have I got that they don't have? And that's the biggest overarching question. But at the end of the day, you just got to back yourself in, see if you can kind of come up with these different unique selling points within your product range, and take on different marketing techniques. And you start to compete with these really big brands, which is cool to see.
Yeah, that's wicked. Are you guys in any stores, or is it completely online?
Yeah, so that's what I love about our business. We've got two sides to it. So we've got direct to consumer online, and then we've also got a wholesale side to the business, which is a really good balance. So we're stocked in 6 stores across Perth. So one of the stores is called Motion Lifestyle, which is in Cottesloe and South Perth, and then Hyperlux, which is in Applecross, Karrinyup, North Beach, and Dunsborough. So kind of got Perth covered from that physical presence.
Yeah, I think you said a really important thing, because it's something I like struggle with on the come up as well. Like when you are going through that period where you've got this, you started it, you got some response from the market that it could work, like, and you're just battling with those thoughts. What are some of the like 2 or 3 things that you did with maybe yourself or like the people around you to kind of push through that?
Yeah, I don't know. I think, just like, particularly for Beth and I, it's just constantly like having discussions and supporting each other through the journey, and just it's not an easy thing though, that's for sure.
No, it's bloody hard. And I think that's a big barrier for a lot of people. You get to that point where it's like, well, why can't I do it? It's like mainly a lot of confidence in yourself, like you said, backing a product that you've got.
I think it's you just got to crush those like limiting beliefs and just go for it. Yeah, that's for sure.
That's wicked. And so, like, you say you listen to a lot of podcasts, and is that something you've always done? Because it just sounds like you've always kind of had this like hunger to like, you said monetary, but like I don't think that's shallow. Like I think we live in a world it's run by money, right? Like we live in a capitalist society. I think it's almost silly not to think about money, because everything is run by it. So like, how did you cultivate that? Like, where did that even come from? Like early years, have you seen people did you have any role models you looked up to when you were younger? Like,
I think it's particularly probably Christian Guzman with Alpha Elite, and seeing his growth. That probably, he's buying the Audi R8s and like all these supercars. So there is that that side to it. So I guess that's the extrinsic motivation behind the business, but at the same time, you need that intrinsic motivation as well. What's your purpose? Are you trying to change the lives of people for the better? And that's kind of what I look into now, because there's that side where, you are money driven, but money creates opportunity, and that allows you to have an impact on the people around you and, also your customers. So a big one for us that we came up with during COVID is we implemented this thing called KOREE Active, which is 3 unique QR codes that are printed on the inside of the waistband of all of our leggings. So the first one says mind. So you can scan that one. It comes up with daily podcasts and quotes. And then the second QR code comes up with a workout. So you scan that, it'll come up with like a workout plan for the month. And then the third one is a recipe. So it comes up with all these different healthy recipes. So it's that
That's
kind of,
really
yeah, it's trying to like work on wellness and that like full 360 thing where it's providing value outside of just a physical product. And I think that's
yeah,
really important for me, is to impact our customers in that way where they can scan that QR code and they can listen to those podcasts, and that's going to change their mindset. And then they can scan the workout QR code and they can do the workouts. And again, that's going to really help them with their mentality and their mindset and their mental health. And then the recipe, again, yeah, like eating healthily. And we know like how much that benefits you to
yeah,
consume the right content, to be active and work out, and then also to have a healthy like diet. So yeah.
yeah. Dude, that's so good, and you're so right, because it's not just a product, then, is it?
Mhm.
It's you're connecting with people,
Yeah.
and it's a reason to buy. Would you say that's like your big point of difference?
Yeah, that's a massive unique selling point for us. And yeah, a lot of our customers absolutely love that feature, you know, particularly our first time customers when they get those leggings and they see the QR codes and they're like, what does this do? And they scan them and they're just blown away that they have
Yeah,
access to this little hub of content, which is really cool. So yeah,
yeah.
that was just a little
That's
idea that came about during COVID, where I was just laying in bed and going, everyone's scanning these bloody QR codes to get into venues and stuff. So let's capitalize on that human habit and implement it into our product. And yeah, it's worked really well.
that's so good. I love that. I don't think, yeah, you're right. Like I've not heard that. It definitely does change the way you perceive. It's not just some
Mhm.
clothing, some piece of cloth. It's like, yeah, you're a company that cares about the wellness of your customers, and you want
Yeah.
everyone to, be at a certain level.
Mm.
But saying that, what's like, obviously we're both kind of, I'm the same. Looked in Christian Guzman, like Matt Ogus, all of those guys when I was really young. That's probably like what got me into doing all my businesses when I was younger as well.
Yeah.
How have you seen like exercising, eating right, like feeding your mind? How have you seen that play a big role in like maintaining performance? Because that's
Mm.
all I'm about. So
Yeah.
I'd love to go
Yeah.
dive into that, man.
100%. I mean, I think that that's the thing that the gym instills in a lot of young men, is to learn that, you know, when you get into the gym in the early days, you jump on the bench press and you throw a bit of weight on the bar and, you know, it doesn't move easy. You're like, oh, this is difficult. But you slowly learn that if you keep rocking up day in, day out, working on your strength, eventually that weight that felt really heavy becomes quite easy.
Yeah,
It's the same thing in business, you know, keep showing up, keep learning. And at some point, things that were really difficult and stressful become like really easy. And that's that journey. Particularly in business, it's quite high performance, it's quite stressful, but
yeah.
you just keep rocking up, you keep working on that mental toughness, and you strengthen your mind. And it's no different to the gym, where you're strengthening your muscles, you strengthen your mind. So
Yeah.
yeah.
No, 100%, totally agree. And I still remember those early days, like, where I remember first, I couldn't even bench like 60 kilos. And like,
Yeah.
like a year later, I was like repping 60, and I was like, wow, it's like the best
Yeah.
feeling. And yeah, it definitely does transition to business with your business. Cause like, I feel like that you do stuff because you're naive and you don't know what you're doing, and you just
Mhm.
try it and you're like, oh, wow, this is hard. I literally don't know what I'm doing. But then
Mhm.
like, a year passes and you're like, oh, I'm suddenly like pretty good at this skill. What are some like random skills that you've just developed throughout like you be like building this business that you didn't think you would ever
Mm.
have?
Yeah, I think it's particularly the digital marketing stuff. So learning how to run Facebook ads, that was a big one for me. Just jumping on YouTube and following along and building that skill set and just learning how that all operates, because it's quite a complex thing, but it's very interesting just learning how that almost a machine works to create a full marketing funnel that, you know, eventually pushes someone to buy your product. And I find that really, really interesting. That's something that I really invested into learning in the early days. And
Yeah,
we've outsourced that side of the business, but it's great to have that foundation knowledge. And even now, I'm always on Twitter following all the different like digital marketing experts and learning
yeah.
from them. And then when I'm managing the team that we've outsourced to, I can relate back to that, and they know that I understand what's going on, which is really important.
Yeah, no, it definitely helps. Like, so you outsource it now. When did you start doing all the outsourcing? 'Cause in the beginning, you're wearing the hat for everything. You're
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
marketing, admin, processing, operations. Like, when was that point where I know, because this is scary for a lot of business owners, stepping back. Like, when was that point when you started stepping back a bit?
Yeah, honestly, I held on to it probably for a little bit too long. So we outsourced at the end of 2021 slash like the start of 2022 when we properly onboarded with outsourcing like our digital marketing. Which I mean, pros and cons to that. I probably should have done it maybe a little bit earlier. Now, particularly when I've seen the results and the impact that that's had to put it into the professionals' hands. I was pretty decent at it, but again, I think that that's the skill in business, is to know when to let go and when to outsource things. And particularly when you're trying to wear so many hats, you can't be an expert at one thing, and you start to dilute like the performance in particular areas. So yeah, once I did start to outsource, which was very much like start of 2022, you really start to see the impact of that. And I think that my advice would be to any other like small business owners is to just trust in that, and obviously do your research on who you're outsourcing to, because there's a lot of people that will sell you the dream and you won't get the results. But if you can get the right people to help you out in your business, it has like a massive impact. Yeah.
Yeah. What would what would you say is your biggest skill within the company?
I would call myself an operations manager, which goes
Yeah.
back to that old job that I had. It's really managing the operation. So again, it's time, cost, and quality. Those three variables. I'm constantly trying to just stay focused on them. Yeah, keep the quality of the product up, make sure that we're getting the stock and the inventory replenished on time. And then yeah, also managing kind of like the finances a little bit, making sure that we're not blowing out our budget, so we're maintaining healthy profit margins. And yeah, that's probably my skill set at the moment.
Yeah.
And then yeah, you've got Beth, who does all the like social media management and the product development. So it's quite a good balance. Yeah.
Yeah. Fire. That's full circle. Hey,
Yeah.
pretty funny. You started in that and you did your 9 to 5, and you're kind of back now doing those skills again. Hey, that's funny. It just
Yeah.
everything does happen for a reason. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you obviously got pretty good at that other job and it paid, because now you're good at it here. That's pretty funny. What's the next thing you reckon you need to delegate?
It's a good question. So we've started to build a small team now. So we've got 3 casuals on board now. So we have started to delegate kind of building community. So we're really heavily investing time into trying to do events and connect with people like one-on-one. So doing events like we'll pull up to say a yoga or Pilates studio and host an event, or a fitness studio. I think that that's really important, is to have that physical presence within your business, particularly with an online business. It can become a little bit disconnected. So yeah, we've invested in that. So it's really good to have a team member on board that's working on that, and that's having like massive results at the moment. It's really good to see.
Yeah, like that, because that's aligning to, the whole QR code thing. You're just taking the next step.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of up to date now with, what you're doing now. You started delegating, you're stepping back. What's like the long-term vision for you? Are you looking to keep Leelo around? Are you looking to exit? Are you looking to start other ventures, be, a director, multiple things? Like, I get that's kind of where you're going, because you're watching Guzman and things like that. That's what they're doing. Is that like what's next, the vision look like?
Yeah, I mean, that's the challenge, isn't it, with businesses? It's like if you try and do too many things, you can lose focus on the most important parts. So trying to stay focused on Leelo for the most part and keep scaling it up, keep growing. So we've kind of just got into that 7-figure region now, and we really have our sights set on becoming an 8-figure business within the next few years. So that's a goal of ours, which really means just doing things bigger and better year on year, buying more inventory, continuing to develop more products, grow the team, get a bigger warehouse, get layers of management, those kind of things. But outside of that, like personal projects for me, I've actually started to do my PT certificates.
Yeah,
I'm going to
cool.
get my Cert 3 and Cert 4, which I'm not sure where I'm going to take that. That's really just out of curiosity. And I know that it will complement Leelo in different ways. So I want to get that qualification behind me and just see where I can take it. Because as I said, I've been in the gym since I was 15. I'm now 28. So it's where I'm most comfortable. And I've always been really passionate about health and fitness. So yeah, I'm just curious to see once I get that qualification where I take it. I have no real big expectations with it. But yeah, I think that I'll go down that path and just see how that can tie in with Leelo and go
Yeah.
from there. So
No,
yeah.
that's cool. I've had the same thought as well because,
Mm.
like, yeah, same. I've been in since I was 15 too, and yeah, for like when I worked at the gym, everyone's like, "Oh, you're a PT." I was like, "No, I just do the sales." But
Yeah.
yeah, it's always been on my mind, eh? Like just for fun, just to have it. I don't know. The same with me because I want to open like a medical center. It'd be
Yeah.
cool if I had like gym equipment in there as well. Do that whole thing. Do you ever
Yeah.
see yourself opening a gym now that we're like,
Yeah.
'cause
Absolutely.
well, you said your studio's above Empire, yeah?
Yeah, yeah. So we've got a 24-hour like full-size gym below the HQ here, which
That's
is
so cool, man.
it's very convenient. Yeah. I think it's almost the dream for most like fashion labels or particularly activewear labels to have a gym within their HQ because it's like a full lifestyle kind of thing where you can work, you can go downstairs, you work out, and that's been very good. So we're really blessed with that. But yeah, I definitely want to potentially open up like maybe not a gym, but like a fitness studio, and go down that line.
Yeah.
Maybe tie it in with Leelo, have it co-branded, and just have a space like those kind of spaces that can really carry over to help market the brand and not really from the point of view of like trying to make money though, which that's the beauty of having like another revenue stream is that we don't have to focus on like starting up a gym and going, hey, this has got to make money. Can actually look at it and go, how can this like benefit Leelo? How can it bring our
Yeah.
community in here and provide a space that people can come work out, see the products, and just be more a part of the brand. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the goal over the next few years is yeah, to try and find a few spaces.
That's cool. No, I like that because it's like a bigger vision, hey, than just again, you've reached, that point where you've got the balance between extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. And it's
Yeah.
like things like that, like that's just fun. Like
Mm.
that's like for a bigger purpose.
Yeah.
I feel like, yeah, the world now is a bit weird, it's kind of good to be overweight and like, I don't
Mhm.
know. That's
It is, yeah, it's a
it's
strange
like
world.
seems like there's an agenda, but I don't know.
Yeah, 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 100%. Touchy subject, but yeah, I know what you mean. So, yeah, I think it's great to kind of just yeah display that healthy lifestyle that's about wellness as well, and it's about having balance
Yeah,
too, because there's a side to the fitness industry which is a little bit too extreme. It's a little bit like being super shredded and
yeah,
lifting really heavy weights and stuff. But for me, I like to have that balance where it's really investing into wellness. I want to be training into my late 40s and 50s and feeling good. And you see these guys that are, doing these crazy CrossFit workouts. And I'm like, bro, you're going to be burnt out in the next like 3 to 4 years. You're going to have back injuries. Your
yeah.
knees are going to be blown out. That's not sustainable. So
No,
for me, that's kind of my approach with the whole like fitness and wellness thing. It's all about like being able to sustain it for the years to come and to
yeah.
yeah go
I feel
down
like
that.
people really lose that as well. Like if you go down the TikTok rabbit hole, the fitness
Oh,
talk,
bro.
man, it's so it freaks me out because when we were growing up, like we just
Mm,
had like the guys on YouTube, and that was just straight educational content, and that
yeah.
was it. And then it went into this weird phase where everyone was like selling things and products, and
Mhm.
now it's like this new age group is coming up, and like they know everyone's on trend, and
Yeah.
like people are getting on SARMs, and it's just about being like the biggest motherfucker like on
Yeah. It's
TikTok.
wild.
It's
It is
such
so
a
wild.
weird time, hey, like because before it was just, oh yeah, like I bench pressed 100 kilos. Now it's like,
Mm.
do you even lift if you only do
Uh,
100? Like, fuck,
it's
crazy, hey.
it's ridiculous. Hey, yeah. I think that I don't know. It'll be a full circle thing, though. I think it'll come back around where a lot of those guys will start to realize like that isn't sustainable, and there is a really dark side to it. These guys that are jumping on like anabolic steroids when they're in their teens, like late teens, early 20s, and then they're
Yeah,
messing up all their hormones. And by the time they're 30, they're bloody overweight and their hormones are all messed up, and they
yeah,
wish they never did it. So eventually it'll come around. It'll be a full 360 where those guys will start to talk about the dark side and they'll be like, I wish I never jumped on that stuff when I was like
yeah.
17, 18. So yeah, I think it's just being patient and like enjoying the journey, like enjoy being natural. And I mean, I guess it's not for everyone to maintain that like natural kind of thing. And
Yeah.
even for me, I get curious as well, but
Yeah.
I
Oh,
think
mate, all the time.
it's a long-term thing though. I mean, if I was going to jump on anything, it's like wait till you're in your 30s, you've had a kid, if that's what you want to do, and then do it in a safe, like healthy way. Because there's
Yeah.
ways to obviously do it healthy, but these young dudes that are jumping on like all different things and they have
Yeah.
no idea
Like
what the like
random
long
lab
term.
chemicals and
Oh,
yeah.
it's wild. Yeah, we're gonna see
Yeah.
like we're gonna see the impact of that over the next few years. I think the like real implications and yeah, it is what it is at the end of the day. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, but it just reinforces that need for like proper role models out there, which I think is what you're doing. Like even just speaking with you now, it's like really cool. Like I can tell you're very genuine in what you're doing. It's not just about making money, even though that was once a driver. Like it's much bigger now because you
Yeah.
see where things are going, and like
Mhm.
especially in this younger generation, like because we're kind of at that point where we'll be role models for these younger guys too. So like, is that a driver for you? Like, is that stuff you think about or?
Yeah, 100%. I'd love to be a good role model. I think that, yeah, it's great to inspire people around you and really like be a leader and show people that there is other ways to doing things. And I mean, yeah, like as when you're young, like you really have no idea of like what things are like. Even before starting a business, you think that things are going to be a certain way, and you listen to these people saying, it's this and it's that, and you don't understand until you're into it. So even like with the money stuff, you think that you're going to be content at a certain level where you're making, say, like I'd have this goal, or I need to do $3,000 a day. And then the goal became like, I need to do 6,000 a day. Then I'm like, once I get to $10,000 a day, I've made it. Like, that's it. Like, I'm going to be so happy with that. And you get there and you realize that really, like, you're not going to ever be content. You kind of get on this almost, I don't know what you call it, like a rat wheel where you're just like
Yeah,
constantly
what's
running, constantly
next?
trying to chase what's next. So you really do need to attach your goals outside of just that like money making thing and try and find purpose outside of that. Otherwise, you'll never really be happy with what you're doing.
Yeah,
So that's definitely been a battle for
that's a
me is
big
to
lesson, man. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you do need to have the drive and have the like money goals and stuff and continuously like be pushing, particularly if you're in a competitive industry. But yeah, it's definitely important to also see that it's not all about just making money and that you'll never be happy. Like for me, it was always like, oh, I'll be super happy once I have this business and I'm making all this money. But then you quickly realize, all right, the money's not where the happiness is at. It's actually like just creating a really healthy lifestyle around what you're doing, going downstairs, training, building a really good team that you want to be around day in, day out, and creating like, yeah, just a healthy lifestyle. I think that's what creates
Yeah.
happiness for me anyway.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. That's literally what I'm all about. That,
Mhm.
overall everything living within your values.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like we're really similar anyway. There's probably other people that are like, nah, fuck that. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, that's cool, man. What do you do to like I know you managed you said you experience stress quite often and things like
Mm.
that. What is it you do to maintain, everything? Because you're growing quite 3 to 4 times a year.
Yeah.
X growth, like what is
Mm.
it, how are you managing all of that yourself? Do you have any techniques for anyone listening that might be going through the same or?
Yeah, definitely. I'm no master at it. There's definitely points where I get very stressed out and I'm like want to almost break down, but that's a part of business and it's just understanding that there's always going to be those moments, like almost weekly now you have that moment where you're just like, oh, deep breath, just got to get through this. There's always going to be different problems. And as a business owner, you almost feel like a firefighter where you're just putting out little spot fires every day and solving little problems. So it's just understanding that there's always going to be those stressful situations and just roll with the punches and just know that, it's not going to like end your life or end your business. So just like stay calm, work through the problem, come up with a solution, learn from the lesson or the mistake that you may have made that caused the problem, and then
Mm,
just keep going forward. And again, like it's a lifestyle thing as well, making sure that I take time in my day to go downstairs and train and just take my mind off the business for a little bit and then go back to it with a bit more of a clear like mind and then just tackle it again. So
yeah.
that would probably be my advice is, yeah, just to manage it. like
So
that.
it's more of a mindset, would you say, than like a specific 5-step guide to attaining stress? Like
Yeah,
it's
100%.
yeah, true. I
Yeah.
like that. I appreciate. Yeah,
There's
that makes
no
sense.
avoiding it. At the end of the day, there's no avoiding these
Yeah,
stressful situations. If you're a business owner, it's a part of the game. You've just got to understand it. And you're either
yeah,
going to like enjoy the process and enjoy like coming up with solutions and working around that, or it's going to break you. So that's
yeah,
really the deciding factor. And some people can do it and some people can't. It's not for everyone, that's for sure. Like I
yeah,
speak to a lot of people that are like, oh, should I get into business, this and that? And I'm like, well, be prepared. Like it's not easy. There's definitely sides to it that a lot of people don't display. Those like, you know, with social media, you see the highlight reel, all the good stuff, but you rarely see all the bad stuff that goes on behind the scenes, the problems and all that. And that goes on for every business owner. I love the ones that are transparent and show those little problems and how they work through them, because that's a reality. I think that you see a lot of these guys trying to sell courses and they try and glamorize business a little bit too much. But at the end of the day, it's high performance and you've got to be prepared for those stressful situations. And you either want it or you don't want it. So yeah,
yeah. What's been the? I know you mentioned it's just about looking at your mistakes and creating a solution to those. What are some of the biggest mistakes you've made in business that you just like fuck, like shouldn't
Mm,
have done that?
let me think. I haven't made any like terrible mistakes. It's more so like it's
Or
the
lessons at
communication.
least. Yeah.
I think the lessons learned is like the communication between us and the manufacturer. So dealing with like overseas manufacturers, you've obviously got a bit of a language barrier, and sometimes like managing that operation, a lot of mistakes can happen if you're not really onto it. So making sure you stay really in close communication with them, holding them accountable, staying up to date with the operations. Because in the early days, I kind of just trusted that the manufacturer would do everything right, and they have been amazing for the most part. But there's always these certain times where they'll make little mistakes, and it can be very costly, particularly as your business grows. You know, it's in the tens of thousands of dollars when they do make a mistake. Say they send you a product that's the wrong color, or the size breakdown's incorrect, or for example, recently we literally had this shipment come in. Oh, it had water damage, and it's
Oh,
like it's things that, you know, it's hard to avoid. They're always going to happen, but it's just learning. Okay, how can I manage this operation to avoid those kind of things happening in the future? And I do have that understanding that some things are always like there's always going to be something that will come up, but it's trying your best to come up with solutions and yeah, different systems within your business to try and make sure that you can minimize it
mm.
as much as you can. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you have any like mentors that you have that you go to, or would you say you mentioned you're mainly self-taught? Would you say your mentors are the people you're listening to in books and podcasts?
Yeah, for sure. It's mostly self-taught and then yeah, consuming that content through YouTube and podcasts. But I'm not really adverse to finding a mentor, particularly going into this like next stage of the business where it's becoming like higher seven figures and moving into the eight figures, where you've got to start building like layers of management, and it does become like even more high performance. So I think for me to be able to find a mentor and talk to someone that's kind of been through it will save me a lot of mistakes and a lot of pain going forward. So yeah, at the moment I'm keeping my eyes out to see if I can find that person that can kind of give me a bit of guidance. And um like for me, my parents, they don't have businesses or anything, so like talking to them, they don't really understand. So that's a
Yeah,
difficulty. Whereas some people going into business, they're lucky to have like parents that have kind of been through it and they can help with it. My sister actually has a partner that's quite a successful business owner. So I've been talking to him a little bit, particularly in the finance side, you know, how to find a good financial advisor so
yeah,
that we know what to do with our money and playing our cards right. Because I think that's the thing. Once you start dealing with like millions, you can lose so much money by making the wrong decisions
yeah.
and investing in the wrong things. So yeah, that's going to be really important for us in the coming years, is to find mentors and get help in that side of things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's actually a good point. Talking about finances, like
Mm.
I know we were talking in the beginning when you were 23 and you're like, do I start saving for a house? Now that it's kind of come to this point and you're quite successful, and what are you doing now? Is that something you're still doing? Are you investing in anything? Are you into the stocks, or is it just you're all in on this?
I'm all
Just
in. I'm
all
all
in.
in on the business still. We still just invest every dollar straight back into the business as
Yeah.
much as we can. Even the wages that we're paying ourselves are pretty minimal.
Yeah.
So yeah, for now, it's very much investing straight back into the business, but I do need to look at kind of spreading our money out a little bit and seeing what I can invest into other areas, because I think that that is a safer play, is to try and yeah, just in case, like put like money out there as safety nets into different investments. I'm not too sure about property, particularly as far as like buying a house. I'm not sure. I know that there's options of like Airbnbs and stuff like that. I hear a lot of business owners are setting up Airbnbs because obviously you can do things where you can do deductions for your tax. There's also commercial property as well that I'm interested in. So maybe when we start to look at opening up those fitness studios and stuff, trying to actually buy the spaces rather than lease them out. And then for the long-term play, it's like if we're to ever look at exiting the business and doing a sale, having actual physical property that's owned by the business is very valuable when you're doing that exit.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That's cool. I like that you're all in. I feel like, do you reckon that's been a key part in the success, is that you're just all in?
Yeah, for sure. Just having your back against the wall. I think I remember reading or listening to this podcast that talked about like the power of broke. And it's having that mindset where you always feel like you have no money, so you've got no option but to like rock up and do the work. And yeah, for me, that's kind of like I've always, even now where we do have a little bit of money within the business and it's really good, but I still try and instill that mindset where I'm like, yeah, I've got the back against the wall.
Stay
and
hungry,
yeah. I don't know. It's I've started to learn to balance that out a little bit as well, because I kind of reflected on last year and what the year was like, and I think I really like worked out of like I was driven by fear almost a little bit. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like where you're
Of
operating
course,
out of fear. I don't think it's a
Yeah.
healthy thing to do. It works. It definitely works to operate out of fear,
Yeah.
but it's not healthy. And again, it's not sustainable. Like at some point you'll burn out if you're constantly scared of failure. So yeah, I've had to kind of change that up a little bit this year, where I'm starting to like relax a little bit on certain sides of the business, which I used to be just so like just had a tight grip on. And I'm like, I've got to be replying to a customer like every hour of the day. Like I'd be out on a run at 5:30 in the morning in the middle of like a 10K run, and I'm like replying to messages as I'm running. That's how like driven I was. But again, I look at that and I'm like, I was operating out of fear. It wasn't that I was like, oh, I've got to provide the best customer service, this and that. I was like, if I don't like reply to this message straight away, I'm going to lose a sale and I'm going to lose money and the business isn't going to get to where it needs to be. But this year I've kind of like relaxed a little bit on that, and I've started to just trust in the process. And I think it's that sense of confidence that you don't need to be doing that. You can kind of just trust that, you know, you've got a great product, you've got great marketing, and that the customer's still going to make the purchase. You don't have to be there every hour of the day, like replying to a message. You can kind of just reply to them within an hour or whatever, or just do it in a little bit more of a controlled, like healthy manner. So yeah.
No, that's so true. That's interesting, because I know from my coaching point of view, when you are in those fear states, you actually you can't look forward. You don't have foresight. How did you find dealing last year? Was that more, were you looking at immediate problems? Did you struggle looking far-sighted, or like, because if you're operating out of fear, like, and you would have experienced some stress as well. Like, how did that happen?
Yeah, I think it definitely had an effect, particularly like from a creative standpoint and coming up with new ideas. Like 2022, I don't think I had any amazing ideas. Whereas like
Is that right, or is that just your high standard?
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to say. But even like coming into this year, like I've started to relax a little bit and clear my mind, and I'm coming up with better ideas on like marketing and events and just like what we can do. So I think that, yeah, it's really important to understand that if you are really stressed out and operating out of fear, you are going to hinder that like creative side of your mind that comes up with those great ideas that again can make like really good money within your business. So it's like a catch 22. You're almost selling yourself off short by thinking that, oh, being really like controlled and aggressive is going to be like the thing that will get you the results. But often it's actually when you're in that relaxed state of mind, you come up with the best ideas. So
like that flow state, like when you're in a run, hey, like
yeah,
when you're in that,
100%.
how good, hey, like the best ideas come to you when
Yeah,
you're running or exercising. You're like, fuck, I got to write that down.
that's it.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool. Well, I think
mine's when I'm in the shower.
yeah. Oh, really? Yeah. I feel like my brain turns off in the shower, right? I just get in there and like just nothing. Like I just like disconnect. But yeah, no, I think because we're getting near the end now, I wanna ask, like, what would, at the beginning of this whole journey, what is one or two things that you would tell, yourself that you think would change the trajectory of where you are now?
That's a good question. It's a very good question. I think, yeah, just trusting the process. Again, invest into good people around you, and don't try and hold on to controlling everything. Trust that you can outsource and delegate and find good people as quickly as possible to work with. I think the sooner that you do that and grow a team, the better. I've seen that now, and that's something that I would have done a lot earlier if I'd known how impactful that would be. So,
yeah, wow, that's pretty powerful. And just want to touch on it as well. The importance of the people around you. How big has that been to your success?
oh, massive. Yeah. I'm so appreciative of having like a really good team around me now. Yeah, so I'm super thankful for that. And I think that it means everything, and it goes deeper than just like the success of the business. It's actually creating a really like good, healthy, fun environment to come to work and like be here every day. So yeah, that's what I'd say.
That's awesome, man. I appreciate it. Cool. Where can everyone find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram, Sean_Meyer, and then the business is Leelo.active, and that's LEELO.active on Instagram and TikTok as well. Yeah.
Oh, you're on the ticks. Cool.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Cool. All right, man. I really appreciate you coming on. That was actually a really action-packed episode. There was so much value in that. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your insights. I'll be chopping up heaps of this. I can already see the different spots. But yeah, I really appreciate it, man. And it should be out very soon. But thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Thanks. And yeah, come down for a workout soon.
I will do, man. I'm keen to try it out.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, mate.
Easy. See you, bro.